The transgression. Captain John Miller stood motionless on the bridge of the Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon. The soft hum of power conduits and quiet beeps from navigation systems did nothing to calm the rising tension in his chest. The main screen had just gone dark. High Counselor Zeev of the Galactic Council, a blue-skinned dignitary whose words were always clipped and precise, had ended the conversation without ceremony. His final sentence echoed in John's ears. The petition from Earth is denied. On grounds of security concerns. This decision is final. John's jaw tightened. This marked the third time in as many years that Earth's application for full Council membership had been rejected. Despite decades of goodwill missions, trade sacrifices, and strict adherence to interstellar regulations, humanity was still being kept at arm's length. Executive Officer Maria Hayes approached from her console, her expression carefully neutral. "Should I inform Earth Command, Captain?" John exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "Not yet. Let's see what communications picked up first." Beneath the Horizon's sleek diplomatic hull beat the heart of one of Earth's most advanced intelligence-gathering platforms. Built to intercept Council communications without detection, the ship's true purpose was far more than diplomacy, it was to listen. 20 minutes later, the senior crew gathered in the briefing room. Communications Officer Lisa Boyd stood at the head of the table, her eyes fixed on her console. John looked around at his team, Maria, Lisa, Science Officer Will Hartman, and Tactical Analyst Frank Ortiz. They were the best humanity had to offer. Dedicated. Loyal. And now, all of them looked uneasy. "Lisa?" John asked. She tapped a command and the room's audio system filled with static, then a clicking melody, Council High Speech, spoken in the Inner Circle's dialect. The ship's translator began its real-time work. "These primitives from Sol 3 must be contained," came a cold, measured voice. "Their resilience is unnatural. The death world they originate from forged them to survive conditions that would end us. That kind of species cannot be trusted with freedom." "Agreed," added a second voice. "Their evolution defies the standard models. Their instinct is always to resist, to survive. If they ever break containment, we may not be able to stop them. Then we must ensure they never have that chance." Silence. Then Frank's fist slammed the table, making his half-finished coffee jump. "They've been lying to us," he growled. "This wasn't about integration, it was a damn quarantine." Will spoke next, his voice quiet but filled with dawning understanding. "Remember the restricted activity in the Proxima Centauri system? They told us it was a research outpost. But our scans showed mining operations." John nodded slowly. "And those resources fall under Earth jurisdiction, by their own laws." Lisa brought up more intercepted documents. "It's called the Death World Containment Initiative. It's not just Earth. Any species from a high-risk planet is blocked, corralled, and manipulated until they collapse or become dependent." The room fell into stunned silence. For over half a century, humanity had worked within Council frameworks. They had sacrificed independence for legitimacy, hoping to become accepted. But it had all been a performance, a slow suffocation masked as diplomacy. Maria finally spoke. "What do we do, Captain?" John looked at the faces around the table. He knew the choice before them carried weight beyond their own careers. Earth was outnumbered and outgunned. But something deeper stirred within him, a refusal to bend, a refusal to be caged. "We don't start a war," he said. "But we start telling the truth." The message. John gave the order. Lisa transmitted the full, unedited recording to Earth Command and every colonial governor in human space. "Make it public," John added. "The people deserve to know." "Sir," said the ship's legal officer, Patrick Allen, "this violates multiple interstellar treaties." John's jaw clenched. "Treaties based on lies have no authority." Within hours, the transmissions spread across every human communications network. The reaction was swift. Civilians protested in the streets. Dock workers refused to service council ships. Several colonies voted to suspend all trade with council representatives. But the most dramatic shift came from Earth's unified government. A world awakened. President Samantha Torres, who had built her administration on careful diplomacy and cautious progress, stood before the United Nations Assembly with a look of unflinching resolve. "We acted in good faith," she said. "We gave them everything they asked. And they saw it as weakness. They do not fear what we might do. They fear what we might become." Her speech was broadcast across every settlement, ship, and outpost. Her final line became a rallying cry. "If the Galactic Council considers us a threat simply for surviving our world, then perhaps it's time we lived up to that reputation." On the horizon, John stood beside Maria as the president's words ended. "Response from the council?" Maria asked. Lisa checked her console. No direct communication. But sensors indicate multiple ships are departing from the council station. "Fast." "Panic," John said. "They're afraid." "Should we retreat?" asked Frank. John stared out the viewport at the stars. "No, we're going home. But not to hide." He turned. "We're going to prepare. The fracture begins." 3 days later, the Galactic Council issued its first emergency broadcast in over a century. "Attention all systems, Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. This is not a drill." And on the dark side of the horizon, behind the stars, Earth's silence finally cracked. The Declaration. Admiral Peter Wright stood tall before the emergency session of the United Nations Space Command. The underground auditorium beneath Geneva's fortified Capitol building buzzed with anxious whispers. Live feeds from the Galactic Council's Central Hall filled the main screen behind him, showing alien delegates shouting over one another in dozens of languages, their voices mistranslated into overlapping echoes of panic. Wright waited. Not for the noise to stop, it wouldn't, but for the room to settle around him. When he finally spoke, his voice needed no amplification. "For 50 years, he began, we played by their rules." Every human representative turned to him. Leaders from Earth's surface, from the lunar colonies, from Mars, Europa, Titan. Officers and diplomats, scientists and civilian delegates alike. "We restricted our expansion to 5 systems," he continued, "when we could have claimed 20. We submitted our technology for council oversight, under the pretense of harmonization. We allowed them to monitor our engines, our trade, our biology." He turned and gestured to the screen. On it, a tall insectoid counselor flailed his wings in agitation. "They have accessed restricted transmissions," the translator rendered. "They know of our containment policies. The Deathworlders must be stopped before they destabilize galactic harmony." "Galactic harmony," Wright repeated, voice dry. "Built on a lie." He paused, then looked out over the chamber once more. "We have 3 options," he said. 1. We pretend none of this happened and wait for them to tighten the leash. 2. We prepare for the war they expect us to start. Or 3. He tapped the podium. The display changed to show a stark, single-page document, projected in bold white on black. Declaration of Human Sovereignty. Gasps and murmurs echoed in the chamber. Defense Minister Elena Diaz stood. "Admiral, the Council controls thousands of systems. Even with our technological edge, we cannot win a prolonged war." "I'm not proposing war," Wright replied. "I'm proposing independence. We're not attacking anyone. We're simply leaving their cage." The chamber went still. Washington, D.C., 13 hours later. President Samantha Torres sat alone at the ceremonial desk in her private office, overlooking a gray, rainy national mall. On her desk lay a single document, just 3 paragraphs of tightly constructed law. Her advisors stood behind her, Foreign Secretary Alan Phillips, Science Envoy Dr. Rafi Haddad, and General Esther Leclerc of Planetary Defense. Madam President, Philip said, the Council will treat this as an act of rebellion. Torres placed her palm against the biometric scanner. It glowed green. A single chime confirmed the document was signed, by DNA, by protocol, by will. They already treat us like insurgents, she replied. At least now, we're choosing the terms. Then she said the word that would change everything. Send it. The message heard across the stars. The Declaration of Human Sovereignty was received by every Council embassy, every orbital relay, every trade port. Its message was simple. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council treaties and compacts. We claim sovereignty over the Sol system and all systems within 50 light-years of Earth. Any hostile action against human interests will be met with overwhelming force. We are not your problem to solve. We are not your subjects to contain. We are humans of Earth, and we will not apologize for surviving. The Council reacts. On the Council's central world, panic followed confusion. The High Chancellor's chamber roiled with noise as alarms rang in every quadrant. High Chancellor Vox Nebulon stood atop the speaker's dais, his wrinkled gray skin twitching with stress. They've declared independence, he barked. This is not posturing, it is sedition. Councillor Nerthal floated nervously in her saline tank at the chamber's center. They haven't attacked, she said softly. Perhaps we should open negotiations. They're Deathworlders, snapped another councillor. If we wait, they'll strike first. But they didn't. The fleet mobilizes. Beneath the Atlantic Ocean, in the subterranean war chamber of the new Human Defense Force, Admiral Wright stood before a map of contested space. Red dots lit up on the hologram, Council mining operations, scientific stations, and supply depots, all located within zones that, by Council law, should have been under human administration decades ago. We're not starting a war, Wright told his gathered commanders, but we are taking back what's ours. Captain Julie Nelson of the Pacific Alliance raised a hand. And if they resist? Wright's expression darkened. Then they'll learn why Deathworlders should be respected, not feared. Within 24 hours, the largest human fleet ever assembled, 50 warships from every major colony and faction, jumped to FTL. Not to invade. But to claim. The message of power. In system after system, the human fleet emerged in silence, transmitting the same message. This is Admiral Peter Wright of the Human Defense Force. You are operating in sovereign human territory. You have 24 hours to evacuate. Safe transport will be provided. No hostilities will be initiated unless provoked. We are not conquerors. We are reclaiming our home. Council stations, caught unprepared, scrambled to comply. Mining ships abandoned their posts. Data labs powered down in haste. More than a dozen Council systems were vacated within days, without a single shot fired. Perception cracks. In the Council's emergency broadcast center, the High Chancellor's aides gathered in disbelief. They're not retaliating, one whispered. They're evacuating our people safely. They're organized. Vox Nebulon slammed his claws on the table. It's a trick. They'll attack. Just wait. But no attack came. The panic. Councillor Yithler stood frozen before the towering observation window of Proxima Station. Her 3 elongated pupils tracked the sky in horror. Where once there was empty space, now loomed 5 enormous warships, metal beasts painted matte black, bearing the sharp silver insignia of Earth, a stylized globe encircled by a sword. Impossible, whispered her aide, clicking nervously. Galactic Survey said this system was secure. The humans shouldn't have been able to jump this close. And yet, there they were. Moments later, the Council Station's central display lit up with an incoming transmission. They're requesting visual contact, said the communications officer, his tendrils trembling. Put it through, Yithler commanded, steeling herself. The main screen flickered to life. A human face appeared, female, calm, eyes focused. This is Admiral Kelly Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Defiance. Proxima system falls within sovereign human territory. You have 24 hours to evacuate. Safe transport will be provided. This is an unlawful incursion, Yithler replied, voice tight. We are not here for war, Rodriguez said. But we are not leaving. The pattern repeats. Across dozens of disputed systems, human fleets emerged with silent precision. Always the same message. Always the same deadline. And always the same option for peaceful withdrawal. On the luxury world of Hedon Prime, panic reached fever pitch. The resort planet, once advertised as the safest retreat in the galaxy, became a site of chaos. Private shuttles launched non-stop, carrying Council elites toward the core worlds. They'll destroy everything, a Vesp tourist shrieked as she clawed aboard a cruiser. Deathworlders only know violence. But no attack came. No orbital strikes. No boarding parties. Hedon Prime was never even claimed. The humans only moved to secure systems listed in their official declaration. Aboard the Defiance. Admiral Rodriguez reviewed reports from the field. Council fleets are pulling back, Commander Alan Powell informed her. They're evacuating not just from disputed systems, entire sectors are going dark. Rodriguez studied the projections. They're consolidating around their core territories. And the mining rigs? Abandoned. Left fully operational. Engineering says we'll have the Proxima site running within 48 hours. A moment passed. Ma'am, Powell added, we haven't fired a single shot. They believe their own propaganda, Rodriguez murmured. They think we'll do to them what they plan to do to us. She looked at the Council logo on her screen, stylized stars above a pyramid of ascending species. Then she shut the display off. Council Central World, 12 hours later. The Council chamber was chaos incarnate. 100 species shouted at once. Feeds from the border system showed human vessels hovering in formation, silent, unmoving, imposing. We must act, High Chancellor Vox Nebulan pounded the central dais. This is war. But no one has been harmed, said Councillor Nerthal, her body pulsing nervously in her saline tank. They've allowed full evacuation. This may still be resolved peacefully. That's naive, shrieked Councillor Grithow. They're Deathworlders. Restraint today means annihilation tomorrow. From the back of the chamber, a new voice cut through the noise, measured, ancient, precise. Perhaps, said Science Councillor Zokran, we have misunderstood them. All turned. Zokran was one of the oldest councillors alive, his transparent skin showing the slow rhythm of glowing organs beneath. Explain, the Chancellor snapped. Zokran approached the central display. Our analysis of human behavior is based on flawed premises. We assumed evolution on a death world yields only violence. But what if their survival depended not on dominance, but on cooperation? Adaptation. A new feed appeared. Surveillance logs from human transmissions. Public speeches. Humanitarian deployments to council evacuees. They are not attacking, Zokran continued. They are stabilizing. Enforcing borders with military presence, yes, but without bloodshed. He paused. If their intention was conquest, the core worlds would already be ash. Silence. Then what do they want? Asked Nerthal. Before anyone could answer, a junior aide rushed into the chamber. Urgent report, Borealis sector. Human fleet has discovered the research station. Gasps. Panic. The Borealis facility was the Council's most closely guarded secret. A biological research outpost focused on human genetics. Intended to find their weaknesses. And, if necessary, engineer tailored plagues. Aboard the Defiance. Admiral Rodriguez stood motionless before the holographic display. The Borealis station's logs streamed past her eyes. Frozen embryos. Earth viruses modified for higher lethality. Notes describing trait suppression in human neural pathways. Commander Powell's face had gone pale. Orders, ma'am. Rodriguez remained silent. The truth was plain, the Council had prepared for a biological war they never admitted to starting. And the humans had just uncovered the smoking gun. She clenched her fists. They had feared that humans would become monsters. But it was the Council that had acted monstrously. The Discovery. Aboard the Defiance, the lights in the command chamber dimmed to amber as Admiral Kelly Rodriguez stared into the glowing projections of the Borealis station's archive. How many? She asked. Commander Powell's fingers moved across the console. The data rendered quickly, scrolling past in flickers of red and white. Over 400 separate sequences, he replied. Human DNA mapped, analyzed, recombined. Some of these samples are weaponized pathogens, Earth viruses modified for multi-species lethality. Rodriguez took a long, steady breath. They weren't just studying us. They were preparing to destroy us, Powell said, his voice grim. The room went silent. It had been one thing to suspect manipulation. Another to uncover proof of containment. But this was a premeditated act of biological warfare. The Council hadn't just feared humanity. They had planned for humanity's erasure. Broadcast decision. Admiral Rodriguez stood before the forward observation deck. Her officers had gathered, Powell, Chief Analyst Juno Wei, Tactical Lieutenant Malik Sen, and Fleet Communications Director Simon Okoro. We have two choices, she began. We can strike the station now. Wipe it from existence and bury what it contained. She let the weight of the moment settle over them. Or we show the galaxy what they plan to do to us. They'll call it propaganda, Powell warned. Maybe, she said. But the truth has a way of sinking in, even if it starts as a whisper. She turned to Okoro. Prepare the files. All of them. Unedited. Time-stamped. Translated into every common galactic tongue. The upload. The files spread across the stars like a spark on dry grass. It took mere hours. Human colonies received them first, confirming long-held suspicions with horrifying clarity. Colonies on Mars, Europa, and Centauri Prime held vigils, reading the genetic logs aloud to silent crowds. Within days, Council citizens on neutral worlds began accessing the archives. Many dismissed it as human exaggeration, until anonymous Council scientists began corroborating the data. Then came the whistleblowers. Dozens of Council geneticists went public, admitting they had been coerced, some blackmailed, others promised citizenship upgrades and family protections. One, a luminescent Tracheri xenobiologist, spoke on an independent broadcast. They told us the humans were unstable. That they'd lash out eventually. But when we warned they hadn't shown aggression, they told us, make them monsters. Or we will find those who will. Galactic upheaval. The Council chamber on the core world of Venzer reeled from the revelation. High Chancellor Vox Nebulon refused to appear publicly for 3 full cycles. Behind sealed doors, he addressed the inner circle. This is sabotage, he hissed. Deathworlders are manipulative, deceptive, cunning. Science Counselor Zokran stood slowly, his pale form glowing faintly beneath his translucent skin. This is not deception, he interrupted. It is the first truth we've heard from them. Others murmured. Representatives from the Theri, the Belrus, the luminous Etherians, all species that had once voted for containment, now wavered. Counselor Nerthal activated a private feed. On it, a crowd of Council civilians in the border city of Hauras, holding signs that read. Not monsters. Neighbors. Truth is not war. Let them speak. The offer. Back aboard the Defiance, Rodriguez received a transmission from President Samantha Torres. The message was brief. Do not retaliate. Not yet. We've already won something more important than territory, clarity. Then came a second communiqué, encrypted, unexpected. From the office of Counselor Nerthal. Admiral Rodriguez, on behalf of a growing faction within the Council, we request dialogue. What we once feared, we now seek to understand. We do not speak for all, but we wish to speak with you. Rodriguez read the message twice. Then sent 3 words in reply. We are listening. A new assembly. 3 weeks later, a council delegation arrived under strict non-aggression protocols. For the first time in history, council ships entered Earth's orbit without escort. At the Human Grand Assembly in Geneva, the hall was filled with both suspicion and hope. Human diplomats stood shoulder to shoulder with representatives from over a dozen non-human worlds. President Torres opened the session. We were forged in pressure, she said. By gravity, by famine, by fire. The galaxy feared that pressure made us cruel. But it made us adaptive. It made us resilient. And now, we offer that resilience to you. Zokran spoke next. We must admit what we've done, he said. We did not fear your strength, we feared what your existence revealed about our cowardice. Torres extended a hand. Then let us rise, together. The Reckoning. The Grand Chamber of the United Human Alliance headquarters stood awash in natural light, its transparent ceiling exposing a perfect blue sky. Beneath it, for the first time in recorded history, sat representatives from over 30 alien civilizations, all gathered not in fear, but in invitation. President Samantha Torres stood calmly at the center dais. Behind her, Admiral Kelly Rodriguez stood with arms crossed, flanked by commanders from Mars, Europa, and the Proxima Flotilla. You feared us because you never truly knew us, Torres said, her voice calm but resonant. You judged us by our world, not by our will. Earth did not forge monsters. It forged survivors. Innovators. Collaborators. On the opposite side, Counselor Nerthal floated serenely in her containment sphere, eyes attentive. Beside her, Science Counselor Zokran sat in composed stillness, his presence lending weight to the proceedings. But High Chancellor Vox Nebulan remained absent, his seat vacant, his silence deafening. Zokran stood, voice soft but unwavering. We have witnessed the results of our errors. Containment bred resentment. Manipulation birthed defiance. And our silence invited catastrophe. He bowed his head toward Torres. We ask, what comes next? Torres gestured toward the circular chamber. This chamber is not just symbolic. It's structural. Round, because no species should sit above another. We propose the Galactic Concord, a shared alliance of independent civilizations, governed not by dominance, but by consensus. Nervous murmurs rippled through the room. Then Counselor Nerthal floated forward, and what of the old council? Let it remain in memory, Torres said, a warning of what happens when fear replaces cooperation. At that, even former skeptics nodded. Moments later, a signal flashed from the outer rings of the galaxy. Admiral Rodriguez turned to Powell, who read the dispatch. Council Fleet Delta 6 has disbanded. Half the vessels are en route to our neutral negotiation zones. The others have requested asylum. Then it begins, Torres whispered. Across the stars, human-built relay stations lit up in sequence. Not as weapons. Not as warnings. As beacons. In the years to come, the Galactic Concord would reshape diplomacy, science, and exploration. Former enemies now sat on shared councils. Xenophobic systems began dissolving their barriers. And slowly, a unified archive began to tell the story, not of domination, but of transformation. Of a death-world species who had every reason to burn the galaxy down. But instead chose to build. The end.